several university, you know. Most of the time, students ask me, how do I think about the future, you know, like what are the opportunity, you know, because what we call in the industry, we call the black swan. Black swan is like, you know, the swan, right? The swan is, they are white, but the black swan is the situation where it has never occurred before. It posed a lot of challenges and uncertainty and insecurity towards the future among the younger generation, you know, like your age, right? Because we are now, what the environment which we are in, it has never been occurred before, you know, like the pandemic, the COVID, you know, like it changed a lot of industry landscape, especially the digital payments, you know, because the key of digital payments is that it's the enabler to all technology, right? Because we have to admit we cannot live without technology anymore, right? To have the seamless towards the digital products like Netflix, Gojek, you know, like in Indonesia, you have to have the means to do the digital payment, right? So that's why it's like interdisciplinary and very intertwined. So Indonesia and Malaysia is like my second home. As the, you know, like the MC introduced, I study my master in Indonesia, in Malaysia, and I have my internship at the ASEAN Secretariat. You know, the street name is very difficult. And also I've been working, I was working with True Money. True Money is actually headquartered in Thailand, but I based in Indonesia, Jakarta for almost 2 years. So, you know, like I see the transition of the business and the strategy. One thing that I would like to say, and it's really true, it's just like the theory, it's like philosophy is a fact, is that the aim of strategy is to create the sustainability. You know, if you have a question like how the sustainability, it seems like something like very non-profit, right? And the strategy linked. Every strategy, you know, like is to create the sustainability. But the context, it changed within the context of the social dynamic. Okay, so I wish to share my screen. This is Mr. Bill Gates, right? He said something about, you know, banking is necessary, banks are not. He said about this in 1994, right? Back then, the majority, you know, like of someone who occupy the banking and payment space are banks. And when he said about this, no one believed him, you know, but it also holds true today. You can see a lot of change, right? The key takeaway from this slide is like change is permanent, right? And as the executive, you know, like my role is also like to plan the strategy, but the name, if you notice, right, it's about the business development, more like the business strategic development and the market intelligence. You know, a lot of so we are now using data to plan the strategy in the execution in the real world. So I have the team member and their role, the business intelligence, meaning that they have to have the understanding of the technology, the understanding of the regulatory, the understanding of the dynamic change, and also using the internal data to come up with the executable plan, which is create towards the sustainability. So if we put this aside, right, one thing that I picked up from the previous professor, you know, my fellow panelists, back in June, I have a chance to visit Korea. It's called Asia Leadership Forum. You know, it's something similar to World Economic Forum that they hold in Davos, Switzerland. One thing that came across in the discussion very often. So the Asia Leadership Conference, you know, most participants, they are the think tank for the government. So I have met the think tank from Singapore, the think tank from Malaysia, and also few key executives from Indonesia, and of course a lot of Korean and people from European flying in. But the thing that people are discussed the most is ESG. ESG means environment. E stand for environment, S stand for social, and G stand for the governance, right? So this will be the major theme in driving the sustainable into the future. And if you may ask why we need to think about the ESG. So just like your professor mentioned, you know, like on the previous discussion, right? So number one, why we need to think about the ESG. You know, it no matter in which industry you will be working in the near future, you will need to understand the ESG. For example, in my case, right, Thailand, economic student, you may know, right, the GDP, right, the gross domestic product. So in Thailand, the up to 42% of our GDP arise from export and import, meaning that we are trading with of other countries. So meaning if Thailand do not adopt the strategy, you know, like any business, like either like you are in the real sector, or either you are in the financial sector, you will be impacted. So as a country, you know, as a strategy in the whole country, meaning that 42% of your income will be gone, right, in the next 3 years. So in Thailand, actually this ESG initiative is already in motion by the and the Bank of Thailand is taking the driving seat. So in August, my central bank published the white paper to it is a policy guideline encourage the financial institution in the economy, both bank and non-bank. So Thailand, we have two sectors, right? For the bank, you are like BCI Bank in Indonesia, and in Thailand you also have a major bank and also have a fintech. So Bank of Thailand has already announced the policy, and for example, you know, like if you are in the brown industry, for example, you know, like mining, petrochemical, car producing, right? You have to start thinking about the ESG, because the interest rate, which is the cost of your production, right, determine partly from how friendly, how environmental friendly, how social responsible, how good governance, you know. So if you have a good ESG score, you will get the better interest rate. This is to incentivize the investment, and also this is how the world, not only Thailand, this is how the world will rebuild our society post-COVID and war between, you know, like the disruption that happened in Europe, right? So I'm gonna move on to another slide to share with you of how, you know, you can because I would like before we move on to that, I would like to introduce one person that he is the leading thinker. You know, this is the book that I also encourage you to read, right? This book called Stakeholder Capitalism. The author of this book is Professor Karl Schwab, if I pronounce his name correctly, because he's German. So the future, you know, like of how you plan the strategy, you have to involve the stakeholder, because in the beginning, right, I mentioned the key of the strategy is to create the sustainability, right? In the beginning of my career, the sustainability. So when we think about the business, right? When I study the management, you know, like the entrepreneur, what we do is like when we do any business because we want profit, right? Profit is number one element. Is one, you know, is one of the elements in the sustainability. So profit we call economic sustainability. So without profit, you cannot stay in the business. You cannot pay wage. You cannot pay rent, right? If there is no wage, so the economy will go down. But the future, you know, like so at the same time as we speak, many companies, especially anything related to technology like fintech, crypto, you know, like in at least in the area that I'm working now. So when you talk about the sustainability or the transformation of any organization, so there is a three interlock circle, you know, like you have a profit, right? You have a people and you have the planet, and this is the overall stakeholder that you need to think about. Something that, you know, like if you cannot only focus on the profit only, because the sentiment of the consumer, especially the younger generation, they care a lot about the planet, right? Because this this is the heritage, this is the legacy, right? And that they need to rebuild the planet. And also people is the consumer, you know, like people are very powerful. So in the beginning of the industrial revolution, right, the power is on the supplier. For example, when the Mercedes produced car, you know, the Ford, when they produced the first car, the technology is still limited to the supplier. So that's why the supplier has a lot of power in setting price, you know, like in specify the distribution, how much, where and when they would like to sell, right? So now, so when we talk about the technology availability, right, it's there. So from the availability, so now it's moved on to the affordability, right? Technology becomes cheaper, you know, like you remember the first iPhone, you know, like it's a technology availability, but the affordability present the new opportunity for the for the other supplier and the consumer. Now you have like multiple brand of the smartphone, right? So affordability is there. Now when these two elements are met, right, the strategy is now like move, the power is shift onto the consumer or the people. So that's why when you plan the strategy, you need to think about these three interlock that I'm talking about: profit, people, and planet, because it's the whole dynamic that will drive future forward, right? So oops, sorry, I have one last slide to share with you. Let's see if I can get my screen to work. So please let me know if, you know, like I overtime or anything, so I tend to keep presenting. You're still with me, right? Not sleeping yet. Okay. So what I'm gonna present to you now is a very apply, you know, like how we apply the strategy to solve, because if you heard, right, if you want to sell something, you need to solve the industry or the society pain point, right? So it is strategy is also about positioning. How do you position yourself? How do you get into the heart, into the mind of the consumer? Because you need to appear as like profitable, planet and also people, to complete the ESG. Okay, I hope you can see my screen, right? So my company is the consumer brand, right? We are known as D Money, right? D Money in Thailand, we are our core business. I will give you the context and how do we translate our product and service and position ourselves into the smart city. This is a real example of how I plan the strategy for the company. Okay, so D Money, we are just like TransferWise, we are like Western Union. We provide the digital money transfer, right? So this one, how financial service answer the smart city, right? So we need to understand the challenge of the city, right? Bangkok, Jakarta, Manila, we are facing with the rising of urbanization, because a lot of people move on to the city, right? And according to the UN, by 2050, right, the city will host, I think, more than 2/3 of the global population will live in the city. Bangkok now is very, very crowded. When we talk about crowded, is a scarcity, traffic jam. It's like when there is any disease, right? It's very spreading very fast, right? So, but also the city is also important, because people are working in the city. 80% of the GDP are generating in the key city. I think it's also same between Bangkok and Jakarta. It's a place where we live, we work, we study, we create something to the economy, right? And also the other thing, that the new generation face, right? So when we need to define, right, the smart money, we need to understand, for example, the context. It has to be open, inclusive, resilient, and efficient, right? So this thing, the message that we have got need to align with the context, right? So, for example, in Thailand, the smart city is defined, as a three interlocked circle: livability, efficiency, and sustainability, right? So how do we translate this concept into the strategic positioning, right? For example, livability. Livability means the city is like you have a joy, you have enjoyment, you have good life, when you live in the city, right? So now I had to link the word livability into our product and service, right? So the cross-border remittance is actually, a very important factor. So Thailand, for example, we have a lot of expat, we have a lot of Burmese, we have Indonesian, we have so many nationality living here. So, and remittance for some country is a key source of income, like India, Philippines, and Myanmar, for example, right? So in order to have a good life, you have to have an income, right? So, for example, I already introduced the concept of affordability, inclusive, and everything, right? So now I need to link, we need to link that keyword into our product and service, to really position ourselves where the target audience, their value, right? For example, inclusive, how do you translate that, right? Inclusive means anyone can afford. Either you are rich or you are the big client or you are the small client. You're supposed to be able to have access to the service, right? And also accessibility is like digital, right? Because it's a COVID and everything. Affordability, it should not be expensive. And the transparency, if is very significant in the financial service, because if you're not transparent, the customer will not trust you, right? And it also has the interoperability, meaning that the consumer or the user have the full power to choose, right? So because we are now understand that the consumer, they hold the power, not the supplier, the producer anymore. It also improves the quality of life, right? You have a choice. You are not bound to use any certain product or service, and you have the peace of mind, meaning that when you're sending money to your family, when you make a payment, you have a peace of mind, the money will arrive, right? So if you are, like if you're sending the money abroad and you don't know where your money is, it's very nervous. And and so with this, right, it enable the recognition and the award that my company received. For example, this one we received from Mahidol University, like Business Innovation Award. And also, if we put into perspective, right, how we can help, drive and support the economy. Okay, efficiency is also the key. When we see the keyword, right, we need to really be able to identify, what is efficiency, right? So in the world of the cross-border remittance, the inefficiency occur because it's a correspondent banking. Let's say if I send 100,000 rupiah to my friend in Indonesia, right? 100,000 maybe too little, I cannot buy Starbucks. Let's say 1 million Indonesia rupiah, right? So the inefficiency, meaning that 7% is gone between the interbank, right? It takes so long, it takes like a week, like if you are the SME, the turnover of the money, the liquidity means a lot, like if you have to wait for the money like for 7 days, maybe you need to get some loans, for example, right? This is, for example, we call the inefficiency in banking and payments among the cross-border, right? So what our company is doing is that we drop the cost of international remittance down from 7% to 1%. So helping the SME, the consumer, save the money and reduce wait time. So that's why we enhance the efficiency, right? For the last one, how how do we position ourselves towards the sustainability, right? So I believe everyone knows UN, right? UN have the Sustainable Development Goal, or SDG. So actually, envision the cost of cross-border remittance supposed not to exceed 3%. Because like in any economy, right, you have the supplier and you have the consumer, right? Both sides has to be equally sustained. Too low, if the company not managed well, they were not profitable. It's gonna be contradict with the word profitability on the first one, right? So the UN, they have set the target of the cross-border remittance to 3%, and most of the Southeast Asia country, they are rely on the correspondent banking, right? For example, the cost of sending money in Thailand is as high as 8% now. So that's why, central bank, commercial bank and fintech like myself, we are working to really lower it down to 3% to meet the UN SDG goal, right? So this is where the technology play key role, traditional banking, they are because in order to reduce the cost, right, they need to in order to reduce the price, they need to reduce the cost. And we see the trend is that a lot of banks, they will move to digital bank or neobank in Thailand. Singapore already has, Malaysia I think already have in the form of the e-wallet, Thailand as well. So next year the Bank of Thailand will announce the license of digital banking, maybe similar to Singapore, right? So I will keep this one is too long. So in order to create the sustainability, you know, the ecosystem player in this scenario, right? We talk about the bank, fintech, and the regulator. We supposed to work together, you know, like to create the sustainability. So here I put, right, fintech and bank with the, I need to move this, with the open infrastructure support by data. We can drive toward the sustainability. For example, the payment infrastructure, you know, it should be interoperable between bank and fintech. It also has to scalable support. For example, central bank digital currency, you know, and co-create when the regulator would like to make any policy, they should involve all. For example, to really like drive the sustainable future. This one I will skip. Okay, so if once we analyze, right, so the livability, like how my product and service, for example, this is like just a mock-up example for you to see the picture, right? Livability, how do we answer the angle of livability? So by making the financial service at the highest level of convenience to the consumer, right? By this we mean access. Customer can access anytime, anywhere, anytime for really everyone. Improve the quality of life, you know, like through digital banking, and also like personalized financial product offering by using the data. It's similar how YouTube, how Spotify understand which song or which content you would like to listen, right? And the efficiency, right? We tackle the global challenge, right, by dropping the cost of remittance down to 1%. It's very impressive on that one. So reduce the time of money in transit, you know, like to really like increase the velocity of liquidity. We fully transparent, and also like so that's what for that, you know, the society can the dead weight loss, right, that one we can reinvest back into our economy, right? And for the sustainability, how do we answer this, right? We are working towards the UN SDG, right, including the ESG actually, and also like enhanced growth and resilient for the smart economy, and ready for the change in the future. I guess that's all of my presentation.